guys, my name is Chantel. Welcome back to my channel and thanks for hanging out with me today. So today we're going to talk about Oto Tomare episode 9. So a lot of stuff happened for this week's episode. Well, not really, but mostly with our boy Kurata. So I guess let's go ahead and talk about him first and then talk about like other little random things that I liked and enjoyed about this episode. So yeah, let's start off with Kurata. So Kurata, he bumps into his old friends, which was really awkward. I'm not gonna dive into too much with his friends other than they were pretty much making fun of him, and like Kurata was just very timid and it almost seemed like he didn't want his friends knowing what he was up to recently, and just based on what these two friends were saying, or I say friends, but I don't think they're really friends anymore. He just hasn't overall had any contact with them ever since they went to different schools. So that just kind of shows you like where the relationship is at. And I did not like these two guys that were his friends, and I really like that Chica like stepped in and was like, hey, why are you making fun of like something that we're doing, blah blah blah. You know, Chica being Chica, stepping in and like trying to stand up for his friends. And it isn't until Kurata tells him, you know, hey, stop, like this is like pretty much like none of your business, like leave it alone, you're not gonna understand what I'm going through. And it's just like, oh, like things start to get pretty awkward between Chica and Kurata, and it's just causes this awkwardness within the club, and the rest of the club members have no idea what to do. And thank God for Kurosu, she ends up coming through in this episode, and she talks to Kurata and is like, hey, if you ever need anyone to talk to, I'm here for you just like you were for me. Like, she's like, I talked to Hozuki and we're pretty much in agreement that I should be like the vice club president just to help you out and like lessen the burden, and so you won't be alone and feel all this pressure. And overall, I really like the conversation that they had together, and I really like that Kurosu was just saying, you know, hey, like I'm here for you, like no matter what. You might not be able to confide on anyone else, but hopefully, you know, having someone like the same age, you know, just let me hear you out, let me be a friend, let me do what you did for me. And I thought that was really sweet. And I also like that she was saying, you know, how she admired how this club just had like all these different people from different backgrounds, and they all just came together to do like this one thing. And she was like, I really admire that, and that's why I wanted to join in the first place, just to find a place where I could belong, basically, is what kind of she was saying, because, you know, Kurosu just never had anywhere where she fit in or belonged because of like her past and such. And I really like that all these characters, you know, they're like a bunch of misfits, like, so to speak, and they just found these friendships within, like, with each other, and made like this whole thing a thing. I guess is the best way that I can describe that. So I thought that was really sweet of her to say. And just as, you know, Kurosu was leaving, his brother, Kurata's brother, starts to say like some nasty things. Not really at the start of the episode, but like somewhere around this episode, he also, like his brother was always bringing Kurata down, and it wasn't just this episode, it's been there for several episodes where he's just constantly talking bad about his brother, like calling him lame and like, why are you doing this, like basically bringing him down. I'm just like, well, no wonder this boy doesn't have any confidence in himself, because he has like this coming from his brother at home. He has to deal with it as soon as he gets home, or whenever he sees his brother, because as soon as he sees his brother, he always has to like say something to Kurata and bring him down. I don't know exactly why, but it's just like so, like, it blows my mind. It's just like, dude, really? Like, that's your brother. Like, shouldn't you be supporting him or helping him like cheer up or anything instead of bringing him down? Like, you're just as bad as like the bullies at school. So he has this environment going on with his brother at home, and then he has to go back to school where he was also having like this type of thing at school. So it's like, oh my god, like, this poor boy, no wonder he does not have any confidence in himself, and why he struggles so much to say like anything, and why he's so timid, because he's always like having someone somewhere bringing him down and like breathing down his neck, saying, you know, you're not good enough. And it's just like it gets to you. So I totally understand that from his perspective. Anyway, what I really loved is that finally Kurata spoke up for himself and stood against his brother. He was like, hey, you know, shut up, you know nothing about this, so like just stick your nose somewhere else. I'm really glad, like obviously he didn't say it exactly like that, but he overall stood up for himself, and I was really proud of him, and his mom was really proud of him too, because mom was just like, hey, like what are you doing talking about your brother like that? And you can tell that the mom was really, really proud of Kurata for sticking up for himself and like telling his brother to like shut it. And this leads to him having a conversation with his parents, and his parents, I really like his parents. I wasn't too sure about his parents at all, because it almost seemed like they just never said anything whenever his brother like said anything like mean, especially the dad. The dad would just like sit there and let it happen. The mom would sometimes occasionally be like, hey, like what are you doing, what are you saying, you know, stuff like that. But this episode made me like kind of see just where the parents were coming from. It almost felt like they just wanted Kurata to stand up for himself. Specifically the mom, it almost sounded like that, like, hey, like she was like, I know you always get pushed around and everything when it's you, but I figure, you know, if it was friends, you would stick up for them. And he definitely did, because like I said, his brother was saying mean things, and even about the club and his friends, and it's like, oh my god. The mom was overall really proud, and she's just like, I'm really glad you stuck up for yourself. And then the dad as well was saying like a few things, and just kind of overall, like point being, he was telling him, you know, how proud he was for doing like all this like by himself, and like trying to keep the club alive and everything. So overall, like the parents' conversation was just like, you know, just be you, do you, don't let anyone else bring you down. So yeah, that was kind of like the gist of their conversation, and I really liked that. And after that, Kurata and Chika were finally able to make up, thank god, and the awkwardness was finally gone in the club room. But I really liked the conversation between Chika and Kurata. You know, Kurata apologized to Chika. He was like, hey, I know it was a little bit harsh, but it was just really hard for me to let anybody in. And, you know, he was opening himself up to Chika and just letting him know why he was so weird from the very beginning. And he just told him everything and let it all out, and, you know, all was good. And I really, really like that. So, yeah. And towards the end of this episode, they wrote, like, on their little paper, like, Chika was like, hey, let's just, like, write one thing each, or, like, one letter. And I thought that was really, really sweet, because I feel like just when they did this, it almost like makes you realize just how far they've all come, and how just strong everyone's bonds are with each other. Like, they're here for each other, one another, and they just, I don't know, they've just turned this into something bigger than themselves, and it's just really, really sweet. Like, overall, it made me just see just how much everyone has an influence on each other. And just like Kurosu said, you know, if one person is lacking it somewhere, there's always going to be someone else that's going to pick up like the slack, not the slack, but you know, like help out in that area. Concerning Kurata, that's pretty much all I really wanted to talk about. So let's go ahead and talk about like other things that I just wanted to discuss about, which is like at the very beginning of this episode, which was the performance of the all-girls school. So in this episode, especially thanks to Hozuki, we were able to see just like at what level they were, because Hozuki was making comments and saying, you know, how this piece that they were playing was just really meant for like two people. It's a duet, and she just couldn't believe that so many people were able to play this thing that's just meant for two people. It almost sounded like it was just one person, and I was just like, oh shit, like okay, like Hozuki really made me see things like, you know, like help me understand like what was going on here, especially because I know nothing about this instrument or like this piece or anything. So it's really nice to hear like her comments and like tell us like, hey, you know, like us as the audience, like this is like where they're at and this is where we're at, basically. So it's like really nice to hear her comments and stuff. And after their performance, the girl that we met last week, she was trying to like transfer Hozuki right then and there. She's like, hey, come on, let's get your papers, let's get you set up already so you can join us. And in that moment, I was just like, oh my god, this girl, like I commend you for trying so hard, but like didn't you hear Hozuki from like last week, in last week's episode? She does not want to do anything with you guys. She's happy where she's at. And thank god for Chika, he like stuck up for her and was like, hey, didn't you hear her before? Like, she's fine where she's at, she is happy, like just let her be, let her breathe, because oh my god, like this girl was just Oh my gosh. But overall, I kind of do like this girl. I definitely do want to get to know her a little bit better and see like more about her. So it's going to be really interesting to see like her later on in future episodes. And speaking of characters, we do get introduced to a boy from one of the schools, and he seemed like a really fun character. I really hope that we see more of him because he was just really, really funny. And he was a little bit surprised that, you know, there was boys in the Koto Club. But once he was like, are you guys for real? Do you guys actually play the Koto in there? And Chica was like getting mad. He was just like, well, yes, like, what do you think? And in that instant, he was just like, oh my god, you guys are like brothers then. I was just like, what is going on with this dude? He was definitely very fun and outgoing. I don't know too much about him other than like, this is just like my first impressions so far of him. And I really, like I said, I really hope that we get to know more about him and see him in future episodes as well, because he just seems like a fun character. I really liked his interaction with our boys. It was pretty hilarious. But anyway, with that being said, I think that's pretty much everything that I really wanted to discuss with this week's episode of Kono Oto Tomare. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing me ramble on as usual, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!